Hello and welcome, aspirants. If you're deep into your GS Paper 2 preparation, this is one topic you absolutely cannot afford to skip. You see, we're looking at a fascinating puzzle. In a country that's nearing 1 billion voters, how is it that India's electoral roll is suddenly shrinking? Let's get right into what this means for governance and, of course, for your exams.
That's right. So here's how we'll break it down. We'll start with the historical context of India's electorate. Then, we'll dive into what the Election Commission's Special Intensive Revision, or SIR, is all about. After that, we'll tackle the main dilemma, this classic tug-of-war between a pure electoral roll and an inclusive one. And finally, we'll tie it all together, showing you exactly how to use this analysis in your mains and interview answers.
So this is the big question we're really unpacking today. Think about it. In a nation on its way to 1 billion voters, why are we suddenly seeing this huge reduction in the electoral roll? It's a paradox, really, and it's at the very heart of the Election Commission's recent, massive, nationwide exercise.
Okay, so to really grasp why this shrinkage is such a big deal, we first have to understand the history. For more than 70 years, the story of the Indian electorate has been one of nothing but relentless, massive growth.
The numbers on your screen tell a really clear story, don't they? We started with just over 17 crore voters back in 1951. By 2021, that number had grown 5-fold. Believe it or not, that's actually faster than our population growth. And by early 2024, we were at nearly 97 crore registered voters. For over 70 years, the only way was up.
And you know, behind every single one of those crores and lakhs is a citizen. The electoral roll. It's the very gateway to their most fundamental democratic right. But as this list grew and grew over the decades, it also became, well, a bit bloated with inaccuracies.
The source material actually calls this problem electoral roll obesity. That's a really good term to remember for your answers. Over the years, the list just accumulated a huge number of what the Election Commission calls ASDD names. That stands for people who are absent, have shifted residence, are dead, or have duplicate entries. And this, as you can imagine, compromises the purity of the whole thing.
Right. So to tackle this obesity, the Election Commission of India launched a major corrective surgery, if you will. It's called the Special Intensive Revision, or SIR. Let's take a closer look at what this actually involves.
Okay, for your notes, make sure you have this down. SIR is an intensive exercise. It's very different from the usual annual revisions. It means drafting a new roll pretty much from scratch, verifying all the documents again, and systematically weeding out those ASDD names to ensure the list is accurate and has integrity. The process is incredibly rigorous, involving fresh verifications and dealing with objections. But here's the most crucial and you could say controversial part. Names can be removed if eligibility isn't re-verified. And what does that do? It effectively shifts the burden of proof from the state onto the individual citizen to prove they belong on that list.
And the result of all this, a staggering drop. Just look at that number. In the first phase of this exercise alone, covering just 12 states and union territories, the electoral roll shrank by 5 crore people. This was a complete, totally unprecedented reversal of a 70-year trend.
And that brings us right to the core of our analysis, a classic governance dilemma that you absolutely must be prepared to write about in your mains answers. It's the conflict between ensuring the purity of the electoral roll versus upholding the constitutional principle of inclusion.
Let's look at both sides of this coin. The argument for purity is pretty strong, right? It gets rid of ghost electors, it makes our voter turnout percentages more accurate, and it strengthens the overall integrity of the democratic process. But on the other hand, the concern for inclusion is just as critical. This process, as we saw, can accidentally disenfranchise genuine citizens. Think about migrant laborers, the urban poor, or other marginalized groups who might struggle with documentation. The whole exercise can get defined by this narrative of deletion, not addition.
You know, this quote from the source really nails the heart of that criticism. The process made it feel as though some citizens had to re-earn a right that is constitutionally guaranteed to them. Remember, using powerful analytical phrases just like this in your answers can make a huge difference to your score.
But, and this is a big but, there is a paradox here, which makes the picture a bit more complex. While the big story was about deletion, the SIR process also included enrolling new voters. We're talking about young people turning 18 and other underrepresented groups. And in many states, this actually led to a partial recovery in the final numbers. So it wasn't just a one-way street.
All right, let's connect all of this directly to your preparation.
This topic is an absolute goldmine for GS Paper 2 and the interview, precisely because it has all these complex layers and nuances.
Absolutely. This issue ties directly into several key parts of your syllabus: the powers and functions of the ECI, the Representation of the People Act, the challenges in policy implementation, and the broader topic of electoral reforms. Your notes should definitely be organized under these exact headings.
So here is a potential mains question for you. To answer this well, you would use that purity versus inclusion framework we just talked about. You would explain the ASDD problem, the SIR process, and then conclude with a balanced, forward-looking way ahead. It's a perfect structure for a 250-word answer.
And for the interview, you should be prepared for a situation-based question, just like this one. Your answer here needs to show administrative skill, empathy, and a deep respect for constitutional values. You could talk about things like targeted awareness campaigns or using technology to help vulnerable populations prove their eligibility.
So, all this brings us to the path forward. After such a massive purification drive, where does the Election Commission go from here? What should be the #1 priority now?
Well, the consensus seems quite clear. While cleaning up the electoral rolls was a necessary, even if difficult exercise, the focus must now decisively shift back. The core mission of the Election Commission has always been, and it must remain, to uphold that celebrated principle of our democracy, ensuring that no eligible voter is ever left behind.